We're going to hold this up. We should do that now. You want to do that? Okay, this is the number everyone should call. That's good. That'll get the word out. Much smarter than me. Okay, thank you. All right, everybody, thank you for being here. I want to thank my partner in this issue, the great Congress member, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It was at this place a year ago, minus a day or two, that we called on FEMA and the federal government to help pay for funerals and burial expenses, and here we are with the number that people can call to get it done. We're joined by a number of people, all of whom are helping in this issue, helping get it done, and they're helping get the word out. We need to let people know that they can use this. We have Vinny Levien. He's the Director of External Affairs of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn and the diocese's COVID-19 task force. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the task force worked and procured PPE and other essential medical supplies for first responders, medical professionals, food to schools, etc. We have the Reverend Gilbert Pickett, my friend of Mount Horeb Baptist and moderator of Eastern Baptist Association. There you are, wearing your Mets hat, I guess. Okay, we have Imam Yusuf Ramadan of the Masjid Nuruddin. Where's the Imam? Thank you for being here. We have the great Crystal Walthall, Director of Faith in New York. Where is she? There you are. Okay, we have Rob Solano. Now, he does a great job as Executive Director of Churches United for Fair Housing. He lost his mom and his stepdad on the same day, just about a month ago, to COVID, but he's still fighting for people. And somebody who originally got involved in this issue with the Congresswoman, Saida Leslie Dunstan of Elm Corps Youth. Did I leave anybody out? Good. Thank you. It's a very distinguished group, and we very much...
Father Rodriguez.
What?
Father Rodriguez.
Oh, yes, Father Manuel de Jesus Rodriguez of Our Lady of Sorrows in Corona. I've worked with that church on immigration, as you know, getting more immigrants here. Okay. Now, so, why are we here? One of the things that pains me the most, and so many of us, is when you see children and grandchildren pushing their faces up against the thick glass of the hospital divider, saying goodbye to grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, no kisses, no hugs, no touching, and then adding insult to injury. Since so many families can't afford it, they can't give that loved one a proper funeral and a proper burial. It's like in a deep, deep wound, there's salt poured in. So the Congresswoman and I, realizing this, hearing it from our constituents, we first tried to get the Trump administration and FEMA to do it on their own, which they could. Good luck. Buena suerte. Buena suerte. See. So then we decided to pass legislation. The legislation passed, and for the last few months, we have been working to make sure that the money that is there now, up to $9,000 for a funeral and a burial, does not just stay there on the shelf, but gets into people's hands. And we've had a lot of cooperation, frankly, from FEMA. That's why the phone number, which we held up before, hold it up again, I guess, since it's apropos. That's why they have set up a phone number. Starting today, people who have lost loved ones in COVID, because they can't pay for the, something's happening with the, they can't pay for the funeral and the burial from January 20th of last year to December 31st of the past year, can get reimbursed, and those now who can't afford a funeral can get the money to pay for it on into the future. So we think this is a very important thing, and we want to get the word out. The phone number is going to be run by people who are understanding, compassionate, and speak multiple languages. I was just in the drugstore over there with two Egyptians. I hope maybe they'll speak Arabic as well as Spanish and other languages. And and they will help people get through the problems. They will need to show the death certificate. We're working with the state and city to make sure that happens in the appropriate way. And they'll have to work to get their expenses. And we're all working with the funeral directors to make sure they help people get their expenses for those who have already paid. It's just gut-wrenching to realize that there are thousands of people, bodies, lying in morgues, not being buried properly. It's just one of the many, many, many problems that average people face, poor people, working people, with this COVID disaster. So let me see if I'm leaving out anything that's important, because my staff always writes great stuff, but then I do my impromptu. Okay, yeah, here's what I want to say. When we did this a year ago, we didn't know much about COVID. We didn't know how it affected people. We didn't know the treatments. We didn't know the cures. And it was like a wilderness. Now we're beginning to understand it, and we're beginning to, with the ARP, to give people the help they need that COVID caused so many problems for them. And now we have to do more on getting much more aid to people in the future with the president's plan, and we're going to build on that and make it better as well. And let's see, anything else, Angelo?
I think you're okay.
Great. So let me call on someone who's done a great job on this and so many other issues, been a wonderful partner to work with. We're on the phone all the time with the FEMA and everybody else, making sure they do this right. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who represents this district.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Schumer, and thank you to all of our incredible community leaders and advocates that are here today. This day would not be happening without you all. It is our community leaders on the ground that sounded this early. I remember that first call with Saida, and she said this is going to be something that we're going to have to work on and get rapid response on. And so I'm very excited to say that that today is the day. The hotline is open, and because that hotline is open, you can call into FEMA and you can start this process today. Now, we know here in New York how tough those early days were. We couldn't even get tests here early on. It was something that was for celebrities and the privileged in those very early days. And so we have been, Senator Schumer and I have been working with FEMA. We've been on the phone trying to get as flexible and accommodating circumstances as possible. Right. So here's what families need to know. Your loved one should have COVID on their death certificate, anywhere listed on their death certificate, either as the primary or contributing cause of death. In those early days, though, we know that so many people, we didn't know what was COVID and what wasn't. And so there are several options available here. One is that you can go back to the institution that issued the death certificate, the hospital, the physician, etc., and you can have your death certificate edited in retrospect, knowing what we know now about COVID. So if your loved one's death certificate does not have COVID listed, you can have it put in.
And in the since September, they've been listing COVID. Mm-hmm. But the problem, as the Congresswoman said, in the early days, they didn't even know what COVID was, so they didn't list it, and we're working to get that corrected.
Yes, so you can go to your institution and have it edited, or in your conversations with FEMA, we're also in conversations with FEMA to see what added flexibility that we can add there. Lo voy a hacer en español, Sí, ok, bueno, quiero que, voy a empezar ahora. Gracias, señor. Ok, hoy estamos anunciando un programa de FEMA en que vamos a dar recursos a personas que tienen familia o personas que han fallecido de COVID. Pues si tienes funeral, expensas de un funeral, hasta el enero del 2020, podemos dar a ustedes los recursos que han pagado para un funeral de un miembro de su familia de COVID. Si la persona que ha fallecido fue indocumentado, también podemos dar a ustedes los recursos. Pero la persona que está solicitando la ayuda tiene que ser documentado. Pero no tiene que ser un miembro de la familia directo, pues puede trabajar con ustedes, con su comunidad, a buscar esos recursos. Y a empezar, puedes llamar este número aquí y hay ayuda en español y también en muchos más idiomas.
¿Solamente de Nueva York o también puede ser alguien que falleció en Pensilvania?
En el país entero. Empezó aquí en Nueva York porque nuestras líderes de la comunidad han trabajado y llamado el senador y yo a buscar recursos y ayuda, pero puede ayudar cualquier persona en los Estados Unidos que han fallecido hasta el enero de 2020.
And one other thing, so everyone knows, and maybe you can, the people on the phones are going to help people through this process. Even if you can't remember everything we're saying here, or it's not all on TV, they will help you through the process. They're instructed to be compassionate, kind, understanding, and guide people through it. Do you want to say that?
Yes, sí, y otra vez puedes llamar este número aquí. Y este número hay personas que pueden hablar español y muchos más idiomas. Y estamos trabajando con FEMA, con el programa y el departamento de FEMA, para que las personas que están muy compasionante y puede asistir y puede ayudar a cualquier persona que está llamando aquí. So, y también the amount of money that we were able to get went up. So originally we were looking at $7,000. Now we've got it up to $9,000 in reimbursements for funerals. Puedes buscar hasta $9,000 en recursos y bueno, reimbursements. Gracias.
Reimbursita. Is he finished?
Pagado, sí. Yeah.
Pagado.
So I think, so I think that pretty much covers it. But we're really, really thankful. Again, we're so thankful to our community leaders and advocates, and to our community that has lost loved ones, who we have right here, family right here that has lost loved ones. We just want you to know how sorry we are, and that this is the very least and just the beginning of what we're trying to do for you as families.
Well said.